All right, choosers, time for some tier list Ooch content, Lamau. I've been doing the final season 2 videos recently, but I wanted to do some videos at some point for the single player game grind that I've been on this year. I made it a point this year to try to do. I'm trying to complete at least 2 new to me single player games every month, and so far I've been keeping up with it. I already did the 2 this month, but I think I'm gonna do extra. I think next week I'm gonna start a new one. I did take a bit of a break from the single player grind because of again, like final season 2 coming out. But I'll probably resume it next week. But yeah, so I've been doing quite a few, and I want to do some videos accompanying all of them. So I'm gonna have to do some backtracking at some point. I'm a little late, but I'm gonna start with the Elden Ring one, and I'm doing this tier list just as a bonus, just for funsies, just to do it. But after this, I am gonna do a video on the game. Hopefully next week. Hopefully sometime next week. And yeah, I wanted some more time to plan it out and get all my thoughts and probably write down some notes for that, because it's probably gonna be a pretty extensive one as it's a pretty freaking big game. But for today, I just wanted to do this boss tier list because I thought it'd be kind of fun, and I actually did this after completing my first playthrough, and I haven't finished my second playthrough yet, but like I'm really close. Like I could have finished it today if I wanted to. And the bosses that I have left, I don't think I'll change my mind on. So I've given like most of these a second shot, and that hopefully, and with a different build too, so hopefully I have a better idea of these and where I actually want to put them for this, as opposed to the first playthrough, which is why I didn't I did make the tier list, but I didn't make like a video on it after the first playthrough. So yeah, this is 2 playthroughs in. Fought all of these for the most part at least twice, and the ones that I haven't, I feel pretty strong about. So yeah, just figured I'd do it anyways. Okay, and I guess for more context as to how I played, for how that might feed into these, for the first playthrough I used, is it the Bloodhound's Fang, I want to say, that curved sword or whatever. I used that for a long time, for most of the early mid game, and then eventually I switched to the Moonveil Katana, and I used one of the, I started using different magic, different sorceries, whatever. One of the better staffs for it, I don't recall what the staff was, but spells like Night Comet and stuff like that. So I mixed it up. I did a little bit of that ranged action with the magic. I did a little bit of the Moonveil action, for most of the end game. And then in my second playthrough, I used the Great Sword pretty much exclusively. In the very early game, I was using one of the basic swords for a little bit, but once I got the Great Sword, it's the one that you find somewhere in Caelid. You find it pretty early on, with the sweet slash attack and stuff like that. I basically used that for the rest of the game, and focused mostly on strength. So first one was mostly dexterity and magic, and then second one was full-on strength playthrough. So there you go. There's the context for the different playthroughs. Let's get into it. So I'm just gonna go in order of how randomly they're listed here. So we're gonna do Renala first. Renala, I think I'm going to actually I'm gonna stick with, well, I almost want to go D. I'm not gonna lie. Especially after the second playthrough, I think Renala's pretty meh. Yeah, I'm gonna go D. So after my first, I put Renala. This is a big change for me. I had Renala in B, mostly because I think it's a cool fight cinematically, but it has a lot of my gameplay pet peeves, and I think it's kind of annoying, and not very interesting or exciting. Again, looks-wise, theme-wise, it's very cool, but actual gameplay-wise, I think it's kind of boring. And it also would kind of suck if you're using mostly magic-focused, and then you probably hate Renala. But if you use melee, like I did, for the 2 times that I faced her, she's really not that bad. She's a pretty easy fight too. So that can change your opinion. But yeah, I don't know. I think the first phase is pretty boring. Again, it's basically just a cinematic phase. This boss has one of the worst walk-ups in the game. So once you're used to it, you shouldn't die to it too much unless you're like super underleveled. But if you are dying to it, which I think I did once on my second playthrough and a couple times in the first, it has one of the worst like walk-ups, like longest like walk-ups back to the boss. And then on top of that, on top of having that bad walk-up, you also have to do the first phase over again. And I understand that, you know, that's a thing in these games. As far as I'm aware, like you're not, you know, once you get through the first phase, it doesn't like put you in the second one automatically. Like you always have to do the first phase over again. I think they should make an exception for Renala, because her first phase is literally whatever. Like it's such a, it's whatever. It's just a time waster after you've already seen it once. So I genuinely think they should make an exception for Renala. And again, the walk up paired with the boring first phase, like that makes it worse, right? The combination. And then she's basically an ad boss with how she like summons in the second phase. I hate that shit too. Yeah, I don't know. Another boss too, where you just like, she just teleports away and you just got to run up, and half of it is just like running up, and then you finally get your hit. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Renala. I think she's one of my least favorite of the, the Remembrance bosses or whatever. I think she's one of my least favorites. Now, let's pick it back up, go to Godric. I think Godric's great. We're going to go all the way to S. The only thing that I don't like about Godric is the reuse in later in the game. I hate the reuse of... Some of the reuses I'm okay with. I hate a lot of the reuses of the bosses in this game, not going to lie. I'm not a fan of a lot of them. Some of the ones that I like we'll get to in this tier list, actually, but Godric's not one that I'm a fan of. But I'm not going to worry about that for this. I'm just going to rate his, you know, first, like the Godric in Stormveil or whatever. I'm just going to rate that boss fight. And I think that boss fight's S tier. I love the theme. I think Godric's soundtrack is my favorite of any of them. There's a lot of really good boss themes in this game, but yeah, I love Godric's. I think it's great. It's one that I've consistently like actually listened to outside of playing the game. So yeah, I really enjoyed that. I think he's a really cool character. I like the phase swap, how he like has the freaking dragon arm and then starts using that or whatever. I think it's really cool. His attacks are a little weird at first, but like once you get used to him, they're not too bad. And he's not the hardest boss, but he's pretty well designed and he's pretty fun to fight. The only issue, and maybe I should just do maybe I should skip ahead and just do Margit next, but the only thing is I think Godric and Margit, at least like difficulty-wise, should be swapped. I think Godric should have been the first boss and Margit should have been the second one, but you know, I'm not going to let that take away from my rating for Godric. I think Godric's really fun, really good. I'm not going to skip ahead, but I did spoil that a little bit, but we'll get to that. Commander Neil? I don't know how you pronounce that. But this guy, dude, fuck this guy. I think I had him C. I'm putting him all the way down to D. I hate this fucker. The two summons in the beginning of the fight, I think this guy is hard enough on his own with his AoE attacks. I don't think that this fight needed the summons at all. I think they could have just left that at home, just not added the summons in the beginning, and it would have been totally fine. Yeah, this guy has some crazy AoE attacks. And he's a second half of the game boss, which means he can fucking two-hit you with like 60 vigor, because fuck you, gamer. Because that's basically what the second half of the game does. That's something I'll have to, you know, that's something that'll be discussed in the overall video in this game. But yeah, his attacks are obnoxious. I hated dealing with the AoE attacks on him. Again, I messed around with summoning to some extent in my first playthrough. I did no summons whatsoever. In my second one, I'd say my first one, I did like 80, 85, maybe even 90% of the bosses that I did without summoning. And Neil was one that I did use the summon for, and I also used magic. I was using my ranged build at this time, so maybe that's why I didn't have as much of a problem with him, because ranged, if you use ranged, is probably a bit easier, but melee, god, this guy was kind of a pain in the ass, and not in a fun way. So yeah, I really didn't care for him. Still better than Renala though, I guess. I don't know, they're kind of the same. Loretta, I really like Loretta. So in the first time I did the tier list, I put Loretta and a different boss, we'll get to it, in a tier of their own here, and I even renamed the tier. And it wasn't that Loretta was bad, it was just the reuse. I hate the reuse for this particular version of Loretta. Again, I'm not a huge fan of the reuses, but I think Loretta's a really great boss. I'm going to go up to A. I don't think quite to S, but I'm going to go up to A. I think Loretta's really well designed. A lot of the things that bother me in certain boss fights, like a lot of my pet peeves in this game, they don't apply to Loretta. I think Loretta... So let's go through some of them. Like, I hate constant use. And the only boss that gets away with it that I enjoy is pretty much like Godric, but I hate the constant use of like the unnatural long ass charge up times on certain bosses. I think that shit's annoying. I think it's cheap. And I hate when a boss has an attack where it's like that. I hate that. I think that this shit is so fucking stupid. Yeah, I think that's just a tactic to catch people on their like first couple attempts. I think it's just like a cheap like gotcha tactic essentially. It makes the fights like really unintuitive, or those particular moves I should say are really unintuitive. And yeah, I feel like if you have good intuition, if you have good reactions, you should be able to do well on a boss on your first couple tries. But those attacks make it impossible because those attacks are damn near entirely memorization. And timing. I hate them. Absolutely hate them. Loretta doesn't really have... Maybe has like one of those, if I can recall correctly, or maybe two, but they're not that bad. I don't know. From what I can recall, I feel like if Loretta has those, they're not that bad, and most of the attacks aren't too bad. It's a good mix of like ranged and melee attacks. I like the way the attacks switch up depending on the distance. It feels very natural in Loretta's fights. Some other bosses, it doesn't feel as natural. I think Loretta's, it feels very natural. And yeah, so talking about the charge attack thing, I'm also generally not as big of a fan of the horseback bosses, but Loretta's an exception. I think Loretta's done really well. And yeah, I don't really have too much else to say. I just I enjoyed it, even with the reuse. I enjoyed both times I fought Loretta in my second playthrough, and yeah, I think it's a really solid A tier boss. Red Wolf, I think I had Red Wolf. I'm not sure if I had Red Wolf A or B, but I'm gonna go in my first go around, but I'm gonna go B this time. The Red Wolf is fine. It's a pretty squishy boss from what I can recall correctly. Like not too much health, but the attacks do have pretty good range, and the Red Wolf can be pretty aggressive. So that kind of makes up for it at the time in the game where you are probably gonna fight it. And yeah, it's a cool design. I don't. It's just not, how do I put it? It's just not my favorite. Like I think this one's just fine. It's hard for me to say why, because this is such a, I fought, the last time I fought the Red Wolf, I had a little break in my second playthrough. It was probably like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so I'm trying to go back and remember it. I just remembered fighting it and being like, that was okay. Better than Renala for like the same area, but it's fine. I want to say the soundtrack for it was pretty cool. That adds to my rating. I don't care. I think it's like a decent enough difficulty for where it is as well. And like a decent enough challenge. Some of the attacks are pretty cracked, but yeah, it's fine. It's just like solid B tier for me. Okay, this one's weird. How do I rate? Okay, so Godskin Apostle. I'm gonna rate these differently than I did my first go around too. I'm gonna go Godskin Apostle. I'm gonna go solid B. Similar stuff with Red Wolf. This isn't my favorite enemy to fight, but it's fine. I think the attack where it starts like, where it becomes like Elastic Man almost, and it like stretches its body. I think those attacks are kind of cool. Kind of similar to like the snakes. Love Steve the Snake. The snakes in like the Volcano Manor, they kind of have like a similar attack. It's kind of weird and off-putting at first, but when I got used to it, I was like, that attack's kind of cool. So I like when it starts to use that attack, and then especially the one where it like moves its front body forward and then brings the back like with it to like reposition. I think that's pretty cool. I think the big thing that I don't like about the Godskin guys is I hate the input reading on their ranged attack, the Fireball. I don't like how instantaneous it is. Now, I don't want to go too far into this because, again, this is something I'm going to talk about in the overall Elden Ring video. Input reading, I'm okay with it, but I do think it's a little excessive in this game, and I don't like how quick it is. Like, I think it should be like an input is read and then like human reaction time and then like it activates. But it feels like that's not the case. It feels like, you know, you make your input or the character's animation plays, whatever it is, like that starts, like it you know, 1 millisecond like starts and it's like activated and the boss is like reacting to, it's like instant, it's like they're reading you, you know, it's so fast. It's so fast that it doesn't feel reactionary. It feels like predictive, which is odd. And I don't love that. Now, yes, you can get used to it and you can, you know to get distance before you heal so that you can have the time where, you know, it'll take the projectile longer anyway. Like, you can play around it. I understand that. I get that. I just don't love it. It almost feels like unnaturally quick, and I don't really love that. So that's the thing that I don't really like about, I'm going to say the same thing for the Noble. But other than that, it's another, like, fine boss. Elmer of the Briar, I think this guy, oh, oops, I did not mean to take Radon yet. Elmer of the Briar, I think this guy's pretty sweet. I'm going to go up to A, not ahead of Loretta, though. He's pretty hard, at least when I fought him. I think this guy, for being, like, not, like, a Remembrance boss, was actually kind of cracked and pretty difficult playing melee. Like, his attacks, the way he varies them, and the way he adds on, like, the ranged component, from what I can recall, along with, like, his straight-up melee attacks, it's pretty brutal at first, but it's kind of fun. And once you get used to it, it's a pretty fun fight, and a good challenge. I liked this one quite a bit. Oh, yeah. We're going to go to one of my... Well, I like Godric a lot, too, but another one of my favorites. Rykard, I'm going to go right up to S, and maybe the top of S. This maybe is my favorite boss in the game. I like Rykard a lot. Not only does he drop an awesome weapon, but, you know, just another thing. Not only does he drop an awesome weapon, the soundtrack for this fight is sweet. The actual, like, character design itself is awesome. I love how the, like, lava at the bottom of him, how it's, you know, how it doesn't do, like, too much damage. I think it can get annoying in some of these fights. Like, Mohg's a good example where, you know, like, the hazardous, like, the Scarlet Rot, or with him, it's, like, the blood or the bleed or whatever. But some of the other bosses use Scarlet Rot for it, how they, you know, they'll spread shit over the arena and, like, cover it, and it'll do a lot of damage. I think those mechanics in boss fights are kind of annoying for the most part. I like how Rykard's is pretty... well balanced, and you can kind of like get up in his face and it doesn't do like too much damage. It's more of a annoyance than like a hindrance, I guess, to be like super specific there. But yeah, it's like, it's not too bad, so I like that. That's fine. Wait a second, is this, what is the, which one? Oh, it's that boss. Okay, I got a nice YouTube video up with the, we got the soundtrack going. I was trying to see which boss that was. But yeah, so Rykard, there is a bit of a gimmick to this fight with the weapon that you pick up in the beginning of it that you're supposed to use, but I am generally not a fan of, like, gimmicky fights. I think Rykard's gimmick is sweet. I love that you enter the arena, you see your opponent, you see the weapon, and you're presented with the weapon, and it's pretty, like, naturally, like, obvious. It doesn't have to be, like, told to the player that, like, oh, this weapon's here. It's like a King Arthur's sword type situation. Like, you're obviously supposed to take that shit and use it against him. The weapon, the way it works, is really cool. I love the, like, ranged attack on it, the way it looks, like the effect on it, like the sound it makes, how, like, weighty it feels. It's a really cool weapon specifically for this fight. And yeah, it's a good gimmick. Like, I'm generally not a fan of, we'll get to it with other boss fights. Like, I don't love a lot of the gimmicks in the boss fights in this game, but I think this one's really cool. Again, it's like that King Arthur's sword type thing. You see it, you pick it up, you use it, weapon looks, sounds fucking awesome. You use it to chow this massive boss that at this point in the game, when you're first fighting Rykard, you probably don't even think you can take him on. And you take on the fight and, you know, maybe struggle with it. He can be kind of rough depending on, you know, how early you fight him. But really fun fight, super well balanced too. The cinematic of it is it's one of the most cinematic fights of the game. I love that about it. But it's also like the fight itself is fun too. The moves aren't too crazy. None of it feels like bullshit to me. Like it all feels pretty fair. The second phase gets kind of crazy, but it's fucking awesome. I love this fight. I love it. So I like Rykard a lot. We'll see what I end up deciding for this video, but this could very well easily be my favorite boss in the game. It's for sure one of the most memorable. Fire Giant. I'm gonna take Fire Giant. I'm gonna go down to D. I think I'm a mountaintop hater. Another topic I'll have to get to in the video. I think I'm a mountaintop hater. So Fire Giant. When I first fought Fire Giant, I was like, this is fucking awesome. And I think a lot of people probably have the same reaction. I was talking about like how cinematic Rykard is. I think Fire Giant competes with that in that aspect. Like when you first see the Fire Giant, you're like, holy shit. I entered the mountaintop of the giants. They weren't fucking around. This thing is giant. It's huge. Like the scale of the boss is insane, and it lives up to the hype. It's really fucking cool. Yeah, design on it, and then the weird how he's got like the face in the middle, and then when it's revealed in the second phase, super cool design in terms of like the look and the feel of this boss fight. The reason why I'm going down to D is because even though I think this is an A or S tier cinematic fight, gameplay wise, I think it's like bottom, like far bottom tier. And I am in general weighting. I tried to weight them the first time that I did this tier list like pretty evenly, and this one I'm definitely, my weight is more towards the gameplay than the cinematic. And yeah, I don't think how cinematic Fire Giant is carries how dull fighting him is. Because once you figure out how to fight him, you basically just go to his feet and you just fucking slap his feet. I mean, that's basically what you do. There's other I mean, obviously, if you use magic, you could use like the comet, get some crazy damage. There's other shit that you can do. But for me, melee-wise, yeah, once you figure it out, you just go to his feet and you just attack his feet until he gets weak, and then he goes into his second phase. And then in the second phase, you can attack, I want to say, like, his hands for more damage, but I still do the feet because it's safe, and I think it's easy. So even in the second phase, I still just go to the feet, slash the feet. He rolls, dodge the roll, get on the horse, get back to him, slash the feet. He rolls, get on the horse, get back to him, slash the feet. He rolls. Like, it's just the same shit, and it's not very exciting. Yeah, I don't know. Gameplay-wise, this one's kind of... It's pretty ass, honestly. I think it's one of my least favorite bosses gameplay-wise. But that first experience and how cinematic Fire Giant is pretty cool, and I can't, like, understate that. He's a really cool, really, like, visually well-designed boss, and, like, stylistically well-designed boss, but just, like, gameplay-wise... Oh, and then I didn't even... The camera. Another thing that I'll have to get to in the video, like the camera in this game, very rarely and like almost ever does it ever like zoom out when you have a huge ass boss. So you have this boss Fire Giant, right? This really cool boss. But how often, unless you're using like a ranged build, how often do you actually like see the Fire Giant? Like again, fighting him as melee, you're just seeing his big ass feet. That's all you see. You don't even really see the Fire Giant. You just see his fucking feet, see his toes. That's all you see. The entire fight, and you don't even really get to appreciate how cool the design is because you're just seeing his fucking feet the whole time. That's all you see, because that's, you know, he's fucking massive and you're down here and the camera doesn't zoom out, so that's like all you see the whole time. So you don't even really get to appreciate it. So yeah, really wanted to love Fire Giant, really don't. Still give it credit for how cool it is though. Gargoyles. I'm going down to E. I was first E. I forgot to mention when I was talking about, was it Loretta, where I started the delayed attacks, and I was mentioning some of the pet peeves, and then Renala, like the walk back, like I was mentioning some of the pet peeves here. The duo bosses in this game, and this will set the tone for any of them that are in this tier list, are fucking terrible. The worst design in this game, gameplay-wise, is by far the duo bosses. It's so fucking lazy. It's obnoxious. For how much praise this game has received, and it is a great game, for how much praise this game has received, aggressive praise, everybody loves this game, 10 out of 10s everywhere. Holy fuck, I was mind blown by how bad any boss with like multiple bosses, like how bad the design is on all of them. Why is it bad? So do something creative. Do something creative. Like if you're going to combine, if you're going to take like a singular boss and your idea for a new boss is to just put 2 of them in the same room, you cannot just do that. That is lazy as shit. You cannot just do that. You need to do something creative with that for it to be a cool design and like worthy of doubling up on them. So like have them interact in some way, you know, have them have like some duo attacks or something like that, or a cool phase in which they, you know, intertwine in some way their attacks. Or like, okay, for example, the gargoyles. My idea for this, instead of the gargoyles having different weapons, each of them having 2 different weapons and swapping between their own 2 weapons, one of them should have had one weapon, one of them should have had the other, and then when one goes passive, one goes aggro, they'll just like randomly like chuck them at each other, and then maybe you can like work in an attack with that, where like one of the gargoyles is holding one weapon, it does like a jump, the other gargoyle fucking chucks its weapon at it, it catches it midair, boom, double, boom, fucking slams down, and then when it's done with that attack, you get a big recovery window. If you dodge it to attack, it tosses the weapon back. Like, do some creative shit. There's so much potential. Do some cool shit like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, have them do some cool shit. But they don't do that. None of the duo bosses do that in this game. All they are, and literally this is the case for fucking all of them, is you've got this enemy that you fought solo earlier, doubled up. That's it. Maybe the weapon's different. Maybe it's a slight reskin. But that's literally it. And it's so frustrating because it doesn't have to be an automatic negative. Like, these bosses could be really fucking cool. I can think of so many, like, there's so much cool shit that you could do where these bosses would feel like their own boss and not feel lazy. It's mind-boggling to me that they decided to do these duo bosses the way that they did, because it is terrible in this game. It is easily the worst part of this game. And fuck the gargoyle one in particular. When the second gargoyle shows up and they do that bullshit where like one goes aggro, one goes passive, but the passive one shoots poison like in your fucking direction, and if you're not on the free cam at that moment, good luck seeing that coming, and then it just completely fucks you. Like, this was easily, I didn't love it on my first playthrough. This was easily my least favorite. Would I go that far? If this was easily top 3 of my least favorite fights on my second playthrough. So in the second playthrough, I feel like the things that I liked, you know what I mean? Like I figured out better the things that I liked, the things that I didn't like in my second playthrough. Yeah, gargoyles all the way to the bottom. All the way to the bottom. Fucking hate this fight. Mimic tier. I'm gonna go D. I'm gonna go D. But I will say something for this fight. The main reason why it's D is because, like, fighting yourself is like a trope. Not just like, I don't know if it's something that they've done in like these games before, if they've done in Dark Souls before. I should have said this in the beginning of the video. I've just played Elden Ring. I haven't played any Souls. Well, I played the Remnant games, but I haven't played any like Dark Souls or fucking Bloodborne or whatever. I haven't played any of those other games, just Elden Ring. So I should have clarified with that. Should have clarified that at the beginning. So I don't know if these games have done it, but like games have done it, where you fight yourself. Like, it's a trope. It can be cool, but it's not the coolest thing because I've seen it so many times. And this fight is really easy. Like, this fight could be cool, but it's one of the easier boss fights in the game, at least for me. Like, I felt like this one was pretty easy. But I will say, the reason why I'm not putting it E, the strats that you can do in this fight, where you can like equip shitty weapons or like unequip your character, and then, you know, it copies you. So like you fight like a naked version of your character with like a club, like you can finesse it that way. And then at the start of the fight, you could put on like your big gear and fight it that way. I think that's awesome. I love that you could do that. I think that's such a cool cheese tactic in this particular fight that I'm literally keeping it out of the E tier, because I think that little cheese tactic is just really cool and really funny. I love that that's a thing. You don't need to do it because the boss fight's not that hard anyways, but I love that you can. I think it's absolutely fucking hilarious. Noble, I'm gonna go to C. I'll leave Apostle in B. I'm gonna go Noble in C. I hate his fat belly roll move. I I hate that. I hate that move. That's basically why. I think these are pretty similar as you'd expect, and I would, you know, want to put both of them B. But yeah, I'm not a fan of the roll move. I understand how to dodge it. All right, I get it. And in the second playthrough, I got pretty good at it. I even was able to handle the Godskin Duo a lot better without summons on the second playthrough, because like I said, I haven't used them at all in the second playthrough and got through them in just a few tries. Like it was pretty chill. So I feel like I got a pretty good grasp of it. Like I can fight these guys. I just don't like the move. I'm just not a fan of that one. It looks really weird and it can be kind of obnoxious sometimes. Just not my favorite. Godfrey's sweet all the way up to the S tier. All the way up to the S tier. I will probably leave him in the position that he is currently, though. But he's really fun. He's a really cool, like, gatekeeper boss for, like, the final boss, I suppose. His attacks are sweet. It's one of the few bosses where I don't get super tilted when I get hit with the grabs, just because the animations are, like, kind of satisfying, honestly. So I like that. The character's cool. The way he moves, it's like very unique compared to any of the other bosses in the game. He has a very unique feel, you know, as these Remembrance bosses should. And it's not too cheesy. Some of the grabs are like a little cheesy, but for the most part, it's not too cheese of a boss for like this late in the game. You know, I didn't find it like that aggressively difficult or that aggressively bullshit. So yeah, I like Godfrey. I think he's pretty good. Crucible Knight, Misbegotten Warrior, E tier. Again, it's not that hard or anything. It's just like a weird, it's such a random mismatch, mix up of two enemies and just calling it a duo boss. Like, it's just hella lazy. I just don't care. It's not an E tier for like being bad, like it's the worst fight ever, or like super difficult. It's just boring. It's just boring. It's lazy. Whatever. Move on. I don't even want to talk about it anymore. Margit, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go A. I'm gonna go A. I think Margit's too hard, honestly. Again, I played the game twice. I understand. You level up for. I did that on both playthroughs. So just saying that, I get it. I understand that. I still think he's too hard. I think Godric and Margit should have been swapped. I understand, like, lore-wise, whatever, whatever. But, like, difficulty-wise, I think they should have been swapped. I think it would have made more sense for Godric to be, like, his difficulty to be the first boss, Margit's to be the second. Because some of Margit's moves are really fucking crazy and kind of unintuitive. And then also, his input reading is very obnoxious. Some bosses are worse about it than others. Margit's is really bad from what I can recall. Like, his input reading is extremely obnoxious. And then especially when you're, you know, new to the game, if you haven't realized that that's a thing yet, or you don't have a full grasp on the input reading and how it works and, like, you know, when bosses are doing it, he can really cheese you a lot because of it. And I think, you know, I think it's a little cheap. I think Margit's a little cheap for the first boss. If Margit was the second boss, I would probably have him in S. But yeah, for the first boss, I think it's a little cheap. I still like Margit, though, and I still think he's a pretty fun fight, but that's just how I feel. Radahn, also gonna put an A. I'll probably leave in that order, too, yeah. Radahn, I think, again, like, the way the second phase when he shoots in the sky and shoots back down, like, cinematically, it's a really cool fight. Like the intro to it where he's like shooting arrows at you and you're running up to him on the hill, and then it's a duel. Like thematically, this is one of the coolest fights in the game, I think. I don't love the horseback fights, and this one's a weird one because I think he's a lot easier to fight on the horse if you just stay on the horse and be super patient. But that's not, like, the fun way to fight him. So, you know, I know that's, like, a personal bias, but I'm kind of, like, torn on that because, yeah, I think he's a lot more fun to fight when you, like, mix in the horse. On my first playthrough, I basically just only used the horse and was, like, super patient. And it worked, and I won the fight, but I just didn't think it was as fun that way. But, yeah, Radahn, I don't know. I can understand. I think Radahn's probably like a fan favorite. I can understand why. I don't like him as much. I don't like the horseback enemy fights in general as much. It's another like personal. I just don't enjoy them as much. I still think Radahn's really cool, and I still think he's generally pretty fun. But again, it's been a while. I can't like say the exact moves, but some of his moves I remember pissing me off quite a bit. I thought were kind of cheese, or maybe it was the way he could like combo his moves, or maybe it was like his recovery time or lack thereof. I don't recall what it was. I thought it was a little bit annoying, but not annoying enough to take him out of like to go down to B or C tier, but just solid A, just solid A. This dragon, Fortisax. It's just like, just throw in C. I honestly don't have a lot to say about this one. Just another dragon boss. He's got like some magic powers. Yeah, I don't have a lot to say. Just leave him in C. Oh, this dragon, though. This dragon's sick. This dragon's sick. This boss fight's sick. I love the whole... What is it? I love the area that this boss is in. I think the intro cinematic to it is really cool. I almost want to say I wish this would have been the area boss instead of Malekith. I like Malekith, but I almost want to say that. Like, I think this boss is really fucking cool. Something that this boss has that none of the other ones have, I think, is they haven't... This boss has an AoE attack where there's actually like a ground marker like for the AoE attack. I don't think any other boss in the game has that. I wish more of them did. Maybe there's like an example of it or two, but I think that's something that should have been used more in the game, and I like that this boss has it, and I wish more of the other bosses had it. But yeah, soundtrack, how cinematic the intro is, how cinematic the fight is, the arena that you're in, the moves, how cool they look. And again, I think they're pretty fair. I think this boss has a good dance to it. Like, I think there's a pretty fair amount of, you know, you running and dodging and attacking. Like, there's a pretty good balance of that in this fight. It's just fucking cool. It's cool. It's fun. Yeah, the Dragon Lord plus Plasudasax? Is that? I don't know. But the Dragon Lord Lamau. And I don't have many negative things to say. It's just like, this was just a lot of fun. This is a lot of fun, and it's fairly difficult, but it's not crazy. I would fight this boss on every playthrough, even though it's not a required one. I love it. Morgott, I went Margit A, I'll go Morgott S. And this is one of the cases where I don't mind a reuse. I think Morgott has enough different that even though Morgott and Margit are like technically the same character or whatever, or however it works, I don't mind it. Also, you know what? I'm gonna be real. These bosses are really similar. Morgott has Damascus, Margit doesn't. That's why Morgott's going S and Margit's staying A. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. What else? I don't need to say anything else. Moog, I'm gonna go A. Where in A, though? I'm probably right where I have him. So the problem that I have with Moog, I think Moog is fun, and the soundtrack's awesome, the character's awesome. I'm not a huge fan of the gimmick. Again, I know that there's a thing in your physic that you can pick up that like counters the one attack. I know. I am aware that that's a thing. I think it's stupid. Now, I'm looking at this from a like blind playthrough perspective, right? Actually finding that tier and, you know, using it for this fight feels like kind of random on a blind playthrough. Now, if you're just like looking up the wiki and you're like, oh, okay, for Moog's fight, I want this, so to counter that, so I'll always just have that when I take his fight. Well, that's fine. But yeah, on the first playthrough, I didn't have that. I wasn't aware of it, and I was committed to playing the fight without it because I didn't know it was a thing. So I just played the fight and I just out-healed the one attack, and just had to deal with that to beat him. But yeah, if you don't know about the gimmick, then it's just a case of like unavoidable damage, and that's kind of lame. Yeah, if it was something that was presented in the area, in the surrounding area, you know, or nearby, like Rykard with the weapon, if it was something like that, that's fine. But I don't recall exactly where it is or how you get it, to be honest. I don't think it is in the surrounding area at all, though. I could be wrong. But yeah, again, Rykard's gimmick was cool. I don't like Mohg's gimmick as much. Still a fun fight, but yeah, I don't love the gimmick. I don't love like the blood spread attacks. I don't love that shit, so I can't put him S, but even though I kind of want to, because I think the rest of it's pretty cool. But yeah, that's just kind of how I feel. Malekith, I'm also gonna go A. But we'll go like right there, yeah. We'll go like right there. So Malekith is one of the coolest Phase 2 transitions in the game. And one of the coolest looking bosses in the game. But some of his attacks are like a little obnoxious, and finding like the windows to attack him can be a little obnoxious. And I don't like how some of his attacks can straight up go through the pillars in the arena, even when they're still up, and just like hit you. I think that's kind of troll. Like, yeah, some of the AoE stuff is kind of cheese. The camera can be kind of annoying in this fight, because sometimes you want to have the lock-on, sometimes you don't. And if you get rid of the lock-on when he goes up on a pillar, it can be hard to like get the view back on him to dodge that attack. I think that's kind of annoying. Yeah, just a few things I noticed in my second playthrough, because Malekith was one of the bosses. I think after Malekith was when I stopped using summons in my first playthrough. I think Malekith was the last boss where I used it, and Malekith's pretty squishy, so using the summon made Malekith pretty easy, and I didn't get to experience the boss fully. So this is one where my opinion changed. I had Malekith S tier my first playthrough. Second playthrough, I'm going A, because again, I found a lot of things that kind of annoyed me in this fight more than I found fun. No, I still found the fight fun. There wasn't more that annoyed me, but just more that I realized in the first playthrough. That's what I meant to say. More than I realized in the first playthrough. Still one of the coolest Phase 2 transitions in the game, though. Fia's champions, I'm not even going to talk about them. E, move on. E and move on. I'm not even going to just E and move on. Okay, I got to take a drink. Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. I just realized we're getting to the spicy ones. I'm drinking more. I need more water. I just realized we got to like all the spicy ones in a row here. Hell yeah, this is gonna be fun. Okay, so Radagon and Elden Beast. Unfortunately, this tier list has them together. If I could rate, I'm putting them together in B. If I could rate them separately, I would put Radagon S, and very high S too, maybe top 3 S. I like Radagon a lot. Elden Beast would go very low D, maybe even E, maybe even like top of E. I hate Elden Beast a lot. I love Radagon a lot. Why is that? So, for one, I think they should be inverted. It feels really weird that you go into the last boss and it starts with Radagon, and he's a pretty like fast-paced, pretty aggressive boss, and it's got the epic, like the main menu, like it brings that music back. It's got it blasting, soundtrack's hype. He's a pretty quick boss. He's pretty like the design of his character, it's kind of like what you think like a final boss of Elden Ring should be, and really cool effects, and I love it. And then you go to Elden Beast and it just gets to a halt. It just gets stopped to a halt with how much of a slog that fight is. And it's like, it feels like they should be inverted. It feels like Elden Beast should be the first part. Like you kind of, it kind of lulls you into a false sense of security, kind of like a slow build up. And then Radagon's like the real final boss. And it's like music busts in, it's going hot. The fucking main menu theme comes in, first time that like you fully hear it in the actual game. You're super hyped. You're like, holy shit, this is it. And he's a pretty fast-paced boss, and it kind of fits like ending boss. Like, that would work. But it's not like that. It's Radagon first, and then Elden Beast. And that just doesn't work as well. It just doesn't work as well. I don't dig the epic soundtrack, the intense pace, and then to the stop for Elden Beast, and then that's the final boss. That was really jarring to me. Really jarring to me. And I did not like that at all. I think Radagon does a great job of combining like all the shit that you face in the game like a final boss should. You know, he's got, even though I don't love him, he's got a couple of those delayed attacks. I don't think his are that bad, but he's got a couple of them. But he should. He's the final boss. Every other fucking enemy in the game basically has one. He's got a couple of them. He's got some grab attacks. He's got some like charge ones. He's got a better version, I would say, of Malenia. We'll get to Malenia's Waterfowl, where he's got like an attack where he jumps in the air, but then there's a really good punish after it. He's got some variations in his moves, but they're not too crazy. He's got some ranged, but not too much ranged. There's a little bit of explosive explosions after the projectiles land too, or on the one attack. He's got like a bit of a second phase where it gets a bit more cracked. He's got like the ground attack that you can like. He's got everything. He's got like everything. Radagon has like fucking literally everything, and that's perfect. That's what you should have. And his moves are pretty well designed. They're pretty fair. Like not too much of his fight is bullshit. Like it's pretty well rounded, and it's a great final boss. And then you get to Elden Beast, this fucking monstrosity, fucking, you know, Apex Nessie plushie. Look it up. This Apex Nessie plushie, like that's your final boss for the game. And he's got some super weird attacks, and he just runs away from you the whole fucking fight. And he has the one like stars attack that's total horseshit, that unless you have like a very specific weapon art or like some strategy, it's like unavoidable damage. Like you're going to take damage to it. And he can do some of his other attacks while you're trying to dodge the unavoidable damage of the Elden Stars attack. Like, and then again, he just like keeps running away. You'll run across like the whole fucking arena, and then you'll get over to Elden Beast, you'll get one hit in, and then he runs away again, and you can't use the horse. You can't use the horse. Why can't you use the horse? It would make so much sense, like, thematically for the game. Like, the horse has been with you this whole journey. Radagon's, like, the, you know, the on-foot, like, straight-up fight. And then you go to Elden Beast, and, you know, the horse helps you in some fights. Pretty helpful for some fights. Well, there you go. Then you go to Elden Beast, and the horse comes in, and he helps you out here at the end. But no, you can't use the horse in this fight. The horse would solve my main issue with the fight, which is how much of a slog it is and running across the arena. But for some reason, you can't use it. Was it a technical limitation? Did they think it would make the fight too easy? I don't know. And if that's the case, that's stupid. But like, why? Why can't you use the horse? I want a fucking FAQ with the developers. Like, I want to know why you can't use the horse. It's fucking stupid. Makes zero sense to me. But yeah, I hate Elden Beast. Elden Beast fucking blows. Radagon's awesome. And it sucks that they're, you know, like a combined end boss. And it sucks that Elden Beast is like technically the last boss that you fight, because it genuinely is one of my least favorite in the entire game. I don't know what it is with video games and shitty end bosses. Elden Ring's a great game. It's not even, you know, immune to it. So many games, so many great games are like that. But yeah, I'm sure some people like Elden Beast. I can't relate. I fucking hate it. I wish there was a second phase of Radagon. Godskin Duo. Woo! Again, it's the same shit. I'm not even going to talk about it too much. I know people hate this fight. I don't love it either, but it's the same shit, right? You got the two enemies, you just combine them. Are there any cool ways that they like intertwine for their fight? Any cool like special moves for their duo fight? Nope. It's just the Godskin Apostle and the Godskin Noble together. That's it. And in a really tight area too. So just like the artificial difficulty, you know, inflate, you know, it's just those on max. That's all Godskin Duo is. Yeah. Don't love it. Yeah, same shit as all the duo fights. Malenia. Boom. Okay. I think a lot of people rate Malenia S because they're simps. No, I'm just kidding. I think a lot of people rate Malenia S because she's hard. And I think a lot of people, I was looking at like community rankings on the site for like bosses, and I noticed a lot of Malenia S, and I genuinely think a lot of people, if a boss is really hard, just rate it S. I don't think, don't get me wrong, difficulty is a factor, but just because a boss is really hard doesn't mean I'm going to give it S tier. Just because a boss is really easy doesn't mean I'm going to give it S tier. Vice versa. It does. If a boss is like super hard, doesn't mean I'm gonna put it E tier. Like I said, I think Margit's too hard for the starter boss. Still gave him A. You know, Godric is a bit on the easier side. Still put him S. You know, difficulty matters. Difficulty matters, but I think Melania has some of the. I think Melania's waterfowl dance ruins the boss fight, and I'll explain why. Now, before I get into the rest of it, I want to love, even though I was kind of cooking, you know, people putting Melania S tier, I want to put Melania S tier. I want to like this boss, and it should be one of my like top 5 favorite bosses in the game. Because if you ignore Waterfowl, I actually really like the rest of her boss, for the most part. I think the clone attack in phase 2 is kind of bullshit too, and yeah. But if you ignore Waterfowl for the most part, I think she's pretty sweet. The problem is you can't ignore Waterfowl. And what are the problems with Waterfowl? Well, one, who actually solves that shit without looking it up? If you did, congratulations, you know, good for you. I would be willing to bet that like 80% or more of the player base looked up the attack because it's so unintuitive on how to actually like dodge it legit. Oh, you can use a shield. Oh, you can use this Ash of War. Fuck you. I don't care. I don't care. Okay, there's so many different things in the game. There's so many different items. There's so many different abilities. I'm okay with certain ones making certain fights easier, or being like stronger. That's fine. But you shouldn't have to have one of those to dodge an attack. And you pretty much do with Melania unless you look it up. Like, if I didn't look it up, I genuinely don't know if I ever would have figured out the exact sauce on how to... It might have taken 12 hours. It might have taken me clipping my stream and, like, psycho-fucking-analyzing it. Doesn't really make sense. But you know what I mean. Like, yeah, you know what I mean. Post-game analysis makes more sense. But yeah, I would have to go to great lengths. Like, somebody just casually playing the game, I don't understand how they're figuring that shit out. So the fact that you basically have to look it up, that's a huge no-no. That means that it was not communicated very well to the player, in my opinion. That already docks her quite a bit. The attack itself is horse shit. It is technically multiple attacks, but getting hit in like one, you know, fell swoop of it basically kills you. And then the attack, she has lifesteal. She has lifesteal. So it's one of the most crazy AoE attacks that's like super frame specific on how you dodge it. And if you get hit by it, she has lifesteal on top of that for the entire fight, not just for that attack, but it's obnoxious on that attack because it's technically like a bunch of little attacks. So you're just getting constant life back when you get hit by it. And the attack, if you get hit by it, you're almost guaranteed to die. It's very rare that you will like get chipped by it and live. It's almost guaranteed that you're gonna die if you get hit by it. And basically it reduces the entire boss fight to this attack. Because you can play the rest of the boss, you can play the rest of Melania very well, and you know, maybe take a hit here or there, but you can play the rest of her very well, and then Waterfowl comes up at a time where you weren't prepared for it, weren't ready to dodge it, and you just die. And that's fucking horseshit. I think it's stupid, especially like this late in the game and like 60 vigor. I think it's fucking stupid. Now, I'm not even getting into all of it. Why is it so stupid? It's RNG to some extent as well. So from my understanding, and funnily enough, I was actually able to figure this out to an extent before I looked things up. Or I actually figured this part out of Waterfowl before looking it up, and then when I looked it up, I confirmed it. So surprisingly, this I was actually able to figure out on my own. When you get to like, when you take out like a third of her health, and then like another third of her health, those are like when Waterfowl comes into play, is when you take out about a third of her health, and then like the last third. That's when it comes into play. But it's kind of random, and I swear, like, sometimes I've had her hit it on me in the first phase, like, 3 or 4 times. And then sometimes, like, once, I feel like it's supposed to happen twice, and most times it happens twice. And then sometimes it wouldn't happen at all. Sometimes she wouldn't use it at all. So, there's some form of RNG element, even though there's like kind of a bit of a time where you know where it's supposed to happen and you can try to bait it out. There's like some element of RNG, or it at least feels RNG, unless there's some very specific coding on it. I mean, I didn't fucking make the game, I don't know. On that attack, which makes it all the more frustrating because again, it is an attack. If you're not ready for it, if you're trying to attack her and she goes into it, you're fucking dead. So this attack that the entire fight essentially becomes revolved around has a heavy RNG element to it. And if you want to play around it, it makes the fight super boring because you do damage, and then once you get to that third of health, you literally stop fighting. You stop fighting because if you go for an attack at the wrong time before she's done waterfowl, you won't be prepared to dodge it and you'll fucking die. So you literally have to put a complete stop, a complete halt on the fight. And like the fights are supposed to have a good dance to it, you know, like a good back and forth, a little bit of hit, you know, they get aggressive, you get aggressive. They have a crazy hit, they recover a little bit, and then that's your chance to attack. There's supposed to be a back and forth. But when you get to that point of Malenia, you have to stop. You have to stop and just run and wait for that attack to come out so that you know that you're safe to attack again. Because again, if you get caught off guard, you're fucked. So it just completely ruins the flow of the fight. Completely ruins it. So yeah, I basically summed it up. Completely ruins the flow of the fight. It's obnoxiously bullshit. The lifesteal on it is like too much for how crazy the attack already is. I don't know how you're dodging it if you don't look it up. I don't know. Did I already mention the RNG element and how, whatever, dude. It's too much. It's too much. It's too much. I hate the waterfowl dance. And then in the second phase, it's not as obnoxious. I think the clone attack is kind of bullshit too. I also think the one where she jumps in the air and lands and then it does like the flower bloom, I think that one's kind of bullshit too. Oh, you can use ranged. But what if you're using a melee character? Not everybody's using a ranged character. Like that attack where she like has that hit and then like the flower blossom, like that should be your recovery. That should be your chance. If you dodge that successfully, you get in there, you get your hits. But she has that bullshit on top of it, so you can't. Like it's, I fucking hate certain aspects of this fight. Which is unfortunate because again, I really like 95% of Malenia's fight. But the 5% fucking ruins it. Absolutely ruins it, which is a damn shame because I really want to love this fight, but I think it's fucking stupid. And I think it's bullshit, and it's the type of mechanics that I don't like in games like this. And yeah, like the hard but fair thing, I think Malenia absolutely crosses over into the just unfair territory. When again, like if you're not looking shit up, you're probably not going to beat her, and I think that's kind of stupid. Just better ways to do difficulty. Like she's got lifesteal, she's got Scarlet Rot in the second phase too, and then this bullshit attack. Like do one, and then the RNG element on it. Like do fucking one thing. Do one thing. Don't do like 5 things. Like it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. Wow, that was a lot. I'll probably talk about her more in the overall video too. But yeah, that being said, just to close out on Malenia, I think they should have just I think they should have just removed waterfowl. No bullshit. I think they should have just removed it. And if you just removed waterfowl and left the rest of Malenia the way that she is, S tier. Maybe even top 5 for sure, maybe even top 3. One of my favorite bosses in the game. I think they should have just removed it. They should have just removed it and just scrapped it because they fucked that one entirely. I think it's terribly designed. So I just wanted to say that though, for people that like Malenia, I really want to. And if they did that, I would. But yeah, it blows my mind, especially looking at videos of like the early game. It blows my mind that attack has not been like completely removed or like heavily adjusted. Like an idea I had was the attack should be more focused on the lifesteal. Like it does less damage to you, but if you get caught in it, it gives her a lot of health back. Like that would be kind of stupid too, but that would be a lot less bullshit in my opinion. Like that's an easy idea I had where I was like, that would make waterfowl a little less annoying and would, again, probably put her back in the S tier. Magma Worm Maker? I don't know. Oh wait, I skipped over Regal. I skipped over this one. This one's just a C. It's too easy. I think it's a cool design. The soundtrack's pretty cool, but it's pretty basic and it's a little too easy. Oh fuck, I got lost. Oh no, I got lost. Oh shit. Oh shit. What was the other? Oh yeah, this one. This is another C for me. This is another C. I just think the charge attack where they shoot out the lava, I just think it's kind of annoying. That's the main reason why I'm putting this cheeser C tier. I just think that move is kind of annoying, and that move is like a lot of the boss fight. And then there's the one that's in like there's the one of these that you fight in the super enclosed space where it gets super obnoxious with that move in the lava spread. But yeah, I just think that move's annoying, and that move is like most of the boss fights. So yeah, not much else to say. Leonine Misbegotten, I think this one's pretty solid. I'm actually gonna go A tier. Bottom of A tier, yes, but just for like, I hate how much this one gets reused. I will say that. I hate how much this one gets reused. But for like a basic, like starter, you know, like mini boss-ish type thing, where again, like it's not like a great enemy, like it's just a boss at the end of this area that's supposed to get you like started on the game. I think it's perfect for that. I think it fits that mold pretty much perfectly, and it's got a decent flow to it. It helps you like learn the combat, which is what those early bosses are supposed to do. It's really cool reward too, I think, or at least looking. I think the weapon is really cool looking. And yeah, just a really solid early game boss. Flying Dragon Akil, I'm gonna go B. I'm gonna go B. So again, the dragons get reused a lot. Specifically, I'm talking about the first dragon here. This is one of the more memorable bosses in the game to me. I love how this boss gets introduced to you. I think it's really fucking cool. Now that being said, the dragon bosses are pretty basic, and this one is literally, it's the first one. It is the most basic. So gameplay-wise, I can't rate it that high, but I'm giving this one a pretty high tier rating still, mostly on just like how cinematic and how fucking cool it is for like setting the tone of the game. When this dragon is introduced, it's awesome. It's one of the most memorable parts of the game to me, honestly, is when this fucker flies in the beginning. Super cool, super cool. And the fight, before you fought the other dragons, when this is like the first dragon that you fight, is a pretty cool fight. You know, like at first it's cool. Now once you fight all the other 20 fucking dragons, it becomes less cool. Like this one being an exception because it's a lot different, but first time around, very, very cool. Very fun. Gideon, E tier. Yeah, I'm doing it. Is that harsh? Okay, I think Gideon's... you know what? D tier. I think Gideon's concept is cool. I think Gideon's concept is cool. Like, the idea of, like, the bosses that you defeated, how he, like, steals the moves or whatever. It's a cool idea. They should have done it in, like, a more fleshed out boss instead of, like, this mini, like, gatekeeper-ish boss. He's kind of, like, whatever. Yeah. Astel. I hate the reuse of Astel. I'm not going to penalize Astel in this tier rating for it, but I fucking hate the reuse. I'm still going to put the default Astel in, like, somewhere, like, right there in B. Maybe, like, right there. Yes, I'll probably... This is something I'll probably bring up in my other video and talk about it more. I hate the second use of Astel. It's maybe my least favorite reuse boss case in the game. It's so fucking frustrating. Really pissed off when they reused Astel. But the first case of Astel, he's not my favorite boss, but in the context of, like, Ranni's quest line and Astel being the final boss of, like, that underground area and the weird ass design and the weird moves, and the soundtrack's very cool. Yeah, I think he's a pretty cool boss. His grab is bullshit. His grab is bullshit. There should be... I hate how you can dodge the grab and then he teleports away. You should be able to attack. You should be rewarded for that. Like, especially the second Astal, like, can fucking one-hit you on the grab. But if you dodge it, you don't get a hit in? Like, that's fucking stupid, man. It's fucking stupid. His grab is bullshit. Other than that, he's pretty cool. Totally fine. Dragonkin Soldier, fine. I don't know. Like, there. I thought this boss was kind of cool in my first playthrough, and then after experiencing a lot of the other bosses and then going to my second playthrough, I thought he was kind of whatever. That's kind of what it comes down to with Dragonkin. Like, when Dragonkin was one of the, you know, one of the more crazy bosses that I fought, I was like, well, this is really fucking cool. And then, yeah, I played the rest of the game. I played it again. I experienced more of it, and I was like, hey, he's fine. He's fine. He's just fine. Last boss, and funnily enough, and maybe I'll try to remember some of them, there's other bosses that aren't in this tier list that I want to talk about. Maybe I'll get to them in my full Elden Ring video. Falling Star Beast, specifically the full-grown Falling Star Beast. Let's go B. I'm going to put Radagon and Elden Beast because they're technically... I'm just going to put this bottom of B because these are technically... Like, Radagon should be, like... I'd put Radagon here, and I would put Elden Beast here. Okay? So I'm just gonna put this to the bottom of B just to not confuse the other, you know, rankings. Now that I placed Falling Star Beast real quick, I'm going to look at the ratings. I'm going to see... Afia's Champions is so lazy. I can put Malenia above that. This is so lazy, too. Honestly, maybe this could probably go down there, too. Fire Giant, you know... Like that. Maybe this. Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. I think. Yep. I like it. I like it. Here you go. There's my tier list. I like what I got. It's been over an hour. If you actually listen to the whole thing, let me know what you think. If you disagree with any of the hot takes or shit like that, throw it in the comments. I don't fucking care. I'll read it. But yeah, now that I've, again, basically completed 2 playthroughs, I'm really close. This is my 2 playthroughs boss tier list, and I went through some of them very extensively, some of them not so much, but I went over my reasoning in a lot of them as well. But Falling Star Beast, closing out with Falling Star Beast. For top of B, I actually really liked Falling Star Beast. Falling Star Beast was a boss that gave me a lot of trouble, but not one that I hated. I actually really enjoyed, despite the challenge, I actually really enjoyed fighting the Falling Star Beasts, and it was one of the most satisfying bosses for me to beat because it gave me so much trouble. Like, and once I finally figured out the pattern and got its moveset down really well and the weak spot and all that stuff, I was like, damn, that's a pretty cool boss. It's a really weird design. I love that the weapon that you get is like part of its like jaw or whatever. Like, I think that's really cool. The way it mixes in its like magic attacks. Are they magic attacks? I don't know, whatever you'd call them. Just the way it looks, like, I don't know, falling, and it's like not too crazy of a move set. The moves aren't too bullshit, but they're challenging enough. Yeah, I really like Falling Star Beast. For a B tier boss, I think Falling Star Beast was a lot of fun. And again, one of my most satisfying bosses to overcome. But again, just like looking at the rest, I can't justify putting it all the way up to A and S with some of these other ones. But for being top of B, I liked Falling Star Beast a lot, actually. I think Falling Star Beast was pretty fun. Okay. Yeah, I feel good about it. That's it. So, am I leaving Rykard? Yeah, I am. I think Rykard's my favorite boss. This one, although these three are pretty interchangeable, I like these three a lot. And then Radagon. Radagon's in here too. Radagon's in here too, for the record. But all those S tier bosses, there should be 6 of them technically. I love all of them, and like super memorable, and those will stick with me, you know, years after having played the game. A lot of the A tier ones will too, but to a lesser extent. My stomach's starting to hurt. It's getting late. Again, I gotta close the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Again, comments or whatever, or hot takes, I don't give a shit. I'll read it, and I'm welcome to it. Not everybody's gonna agree with everything I said. Not everybody's gonna disagree with everything. So like things you agree on, disagree on, if you care to put it, if you actually listen to the whole thing, or thoughts on the tier, whatever, throw it down there. I'll read it. I don't care. And I think this is Godric's soundtrack in the background, right? It is. This soundtrack's so good. This is my, okay. While he is my 3rd or 4th favorite boss, oh, this theme is so fucking good. Favorite theme, though, by far. This shit is great. God, it's so good. So good. But yeah, so that's it for the tier list. And next for, maybe I'll do some other Elden Ring stuff, but next I'm going to do a video that'll probably be this long, maybe longer, Jesus, where I talk about my thoughts on the game. I'm going to try to do those for all my single-player games. I got to get caught up on that. But this year, like with my goal of doing those single-player games, I'm going to try to do videos accompanying all of them, starting off with Elden Ring, and the game is fucking massive, so there's a lot to talk about. So it might be a bit, but this upcoming week, I'm going to try to get it out. I'm going to try. All right, GG's. See you guys later.